So I need to do two things today. The first is I need to take apart some of the discounts and look at why they don't work. And the second thing is we need to get into the income approach as buttressed by the market approach. The first thing we need to look at is discount for lack of control. Now, there isn't any empirical evidence, none, that exists on the value of control or lack of control in a private company. This does not mean that it isn't extremely important, but we don't have any way to measure it yet. We've talked about discounts for lack of control and premiums for control. This slide shows kind of the general data that people point to get to an implied minority discount using average control premiums and median control premiums, and then taking the reciprocal based on the assumption that it is actually that it is a control premium. And I think that what we are coming to the conclusion is that it is a transaction premium based on market participants. What was missed in the controlled premium studies is it doesn't actually show a differential between control and lack of control, because the mistake was that publicly traded shares trade as minority interests. They are minority interests, but they don't trade like it. They trade like very close to their control value, and most of the time, many times I've done appraisals where they traded above their transaction potential M&A value. And the reason is liquidity. The value of liquidity eliminates all of the problems that you have because you can't control the public company. Well, not only that, those prerogatives of control that are listed in the books are really the kinds of things you wouldn't want to have. You don't want to have any control over this company. It would completely defeat the purpose of being a public company. The purpose of being a public company is to give you control over your investment. So if you can sell your investment anytime you want, the last thing you want is control over the company. The transactions that show these premiums are really from a controlling position to a controlling position, because the public company is already controlled by the board, by the management, and ultimately by the shareholders. It's not like there's a differential between minority and control. It's a control seller and a control buyer. We've gone through this an awful lot in the last few years, and I don't want to belabor it too much. This does not work. It is completely bogus. The problem is, I continue to see this in reports. People keep putting it in as if there was some truth to it. Now, this just gives you some sense of the kinds of articles that have been written by people to say this whole idea of a control premium and a discount for lack of control from these transaction data is hogwash. And so it's not just me. There's a whole wave. And by the way, that no one has ever rebutted this idea. And so if science is getting data, developing a hypothesis, and then testing it with fresh data, no one has ever rebutted the hypothesis. So I have to assume that it's true. All right, so now we're going to talk about closed-end fund discounts. And of course, this goes to the Richmond case, and it goes to a lot of other cases in tax court. People get the closed-end funds. They look at the discounts on closed-end funds, and they assume, because the closed-end fund you can't control the portfolio within the closed-end fund, that this then, the discount on the closed-end fund gives you a discount for lack of control. Well, so this is the data that the courts will see. And of course, the courts buy it, and they incorporate it into their decisions. What happens here is that most of the time, in putting together this data, appraisers will eliminate the premiums at which closed-end funds are trading, right? Because they don't support the theory. It's absolute hogwash to take data out if it doesn't support your theory. Read Standard Deviations by Gary Smith. It is an incredible book, and it's a book about statistics. And of course, you buy stuff like that, right, so you can read it before bed and go put yourself to sleep. This is one of the most exciting books I have read in a long time. It talks about stuff like this where you throw data away that doesn't support your theory. Well, guess what? Closed-end funds, and I've got a couple of them here, trade at premiums, they trade at discounts, then they trade at premiums, then they trade at discounts. On the top line there, we have a muni fund, closed-end fund, during 2011 and 2013. The net asset value varies all over the place, of course, but they standardized it to a zero line. It shows you that it does. It trades at discounts, it trades at premiums. The same thing goes for the chart on the bottom line, where the green line is the net asset value and the orange is the price. Well, you know, this just goes to show you that publicly traded shares, which closed-end funds are, tend to trade at or near control value. Sometimes more, sometimes less. This is what we call a crackpot theory. Closed-end funds do not work. Please eliminate it from your practice. If you ever go to court and you get any kind of an attorney that's half awake, you will be Dalberted out, because this is the most idiotic thing you can imagine. I mean, those are the only things that I know of that talk about lack of control. So I don't think there's any data. Of course, you still have to embed it somewhere in your analysis, because you don't have control over the company and you don't have control over your investment. And so therefore, it's a huge problem that has to be considered.